Hello kind people of YouTube and welcome back to another video. Today, as always, we're going to take a quick look at the markets before reading some analysis and then looking at some news and rumors from the last 24 hours or so pertaining to the cryptocurrency sphere. So let's start by refreshing CoinMarketCap quickly. Today, for the third or fourth day in a row, we have a very unremarkable day as far as trading is concerned. The markets have barely moved, with market cap once again sitting around $202 billion US. This might be the least I have ever seen the market move for 3 or 4 days in a row. This might have been the closest trading range that I have personally ever seen. We see most major tokens up or down less than 1%, the exceptions being Stellar down 1.29%, which is also not a lot, and Tron up 3.1% because of some good rumors that we're going to talk about in a moment. But in general, there is just about no movement here. Nothing is moving in the top 10, everything is up or down 0.0 something percent. And we also see Bitcoin dominance at just about the same point it was yesterday, 54.1%. Just not a lot moving here. Keep in mind, when we see the trading range narrow like this, especially if it's for an extended period of time, that usually means a big move either up or down is about to happen. I believe there's a lot of waiting going on right now because we know around the end of this month, beginning of next month, the SEC will decide if they approve the Bitcoin ETFs they had previously rejected. And that is a piece of news that is probably the only thing with the power to actually move the market in a major way right now. So that is what the markets seem to be waiting for at the moment. Anyway, let's read some analysis from people who understand the markets way better than I do, because they're actually analysts and not just some rando talking on YouTube. As always, all these articles are linked in the description, as well as, if you like the channel, some ways to support it. I do have a Patreon now that comes with some perks if you sign up and if you choose to support me with either $1 a month or $3 a month, so do check the description, there's good stuff in there. But yeah, let's read this from CoinDesk. Not so safe haven, signs suggest Bitcoin might still be a risk asset, because this is a very interesting article that comes to a conclusion that I have independently come to a while ago as well. And it's nice to see it supported by someone who has more of an analytical, more of a technical view. Volatile price swings and plummeting valuations have been a reality for Bitcoin investors of late, but those who own traditional equities haven't been immune either. In fact, Bitcoin and the S&P have correlated on and off for almost a year, each taking turns as the leading indicator. Bitcoin, the cryptocurrency advertised as digital gold due to its difficult means of production and limited supply, is expected by some to act as a safe haven asset, one that rises or remains stable in times of economic turmoil, just as its metal companion traditionally has. To date though, rarely has that been the case. Since October 10th, both Bitcoin and equity markets have taken a notable plunge, and interestingly enough, to around the same degree. The S&P 500, the benchmark for equities worldwide, at its lowest point of the day of $2,710 market at 5.69% loss from the opening price of the day prior. Similarly, Bitcoin's low yesterday of $6,205 marks a 6.7% depreciation from the opening prices 2 days ago, according to data from Binance. The respective performances suggest Bitcoin is behaving like a risk asset rather than a safe haven alternative, a claim backed up by their technical charts. The daily chart comparison between the S&P 500 index and Bitcoin shows a similar correlation in price action and direction, with a notable dip in both markets in September and October. It has often been the case that as Bitcoin gains in value, so too does the SPX and vice versa, providing an indication on the status of investor sentiment worldwide. Observing the end of September for Bitcoin, we see how prices peaked and sharply fell as the month of October rolled around. The SPX also retraced around the same time. The first indications for Bitcoin's most recent breakdown appeared on the SPX on October 4th to 5th, demonstrated by the peak in price and a bearish 3-candlestick breakdown that triggered a sharp sell-off. Bitcoin followed suit a day later after printing a similar bearish candlestick on both charts. So for now, it seems as though the SPX is providing signals for the Bitcoin market a day or so in advance. Risky assets are the ones that have a significant degree of price volatility and do not offer fixed returns. Further, the prices of these assets tend to rise when the domestic and global economy is growing. For instance, stock markets do not offer a guaranteed return and usually rally when the economy is doing well and vice versa. On similar lines, emerging market currencies, base metals and oil are risky assets which closely follow the action in the major stock exchanges across the globe. Bitcoin does share some of the properties of the risky assets. For instance, there are no fixed returns in the Bitcoin market and historically it's been highly volatile. More importantly, it is closely following the stock markets, so it is safe to conclude that Bitcoin is currently being treated as a risk asset by some investors. The leading cryptocurrency will likely start behaving like a classic safe haven asset after its adoption rates have increased significantly. So we see here a point to be an argument that as it currently is, Bitcoin is acting like a risky asset, not a safe haven asset, and I think the data for this is very legitimate. A lot of people look at Bitcoin as a store of value, a safe haven asset for when the traditional markets crash. The issue with that right now is that the cryptocurrency market is so much smaller in comparison that a small amount of money, or a relatively small amount of money on a cosmic scale, can still move the market significantly. And once the crypto markets grow larger, once there is a lot more money in it, volatility should fall with it, and then and only then can we accept cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin in particular, to become safe haven assets. And I really do hope that we reach that point before the next major market crash. Traditional market, I mean here, not crypto market. Because it has been 10 years now since the big crash of the last decade. And these things are cyclical and a lot of risk factors are pointing towards the next one being near. Hopefully, Bitcoin is big enough at that point, on crypto in general, to act as a safe haven, as we have seen it do in smaller countries that had local financial crisis. We have seen that happen in Turkey, we have seen that happen in Iran, I believe, and we have seen that happen in Venezuela, where when the value of their fiat currency fell like crazy, when they dealt with hyper inflation, when they dealt with pretty much their economy breaking down, the value of cryptocurrencies shot up in a pretty much reverse proportional pattern. I do think that is a chance that will happen once we have a worldwide financial crisis. But as it stands right now, we might not be at the point yet where Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies in general are quite capable of becoming safe havens. Right now, a lot of that is down to how people perceive them. People perceive them as too risky because they have been too volatile in the past. I mean, the crypto markets move so much more than stock markets. That means there is more potential to gain money in it, but also more risk. And you don't, as a traditional investor, you don't want to pull out your money of a risky out of a risky investment that's falling, and then put it in another potentially even more risky investment. So Bitcoin needs to be seen as something stable, or cryptocurrency in general, and there needs to be a lot more money in the crypto world before we can really think of them as stores of value and as safe haven currencies, safe haven investments. But I do believe that is coming in the future. It does look like a lot more money is flowing into the crypto sphere, and we have seen a market valuation of almost $1 trillion before. At some point we are very likely to reach that and exceed that. Anyway, on to some news, and the first one isn't really news, but I do think there's something interesting to be said about this, so let's talk about it. Ripple sees its XRP coin get the most votes for best cryptocurrency under $1 to buy. Now, this is just a Twitter poll, but let's read this and then I'll say why I think this is still something significant to take a look at. According to a recent poll made by Vice Ratings, XRP has been voted as the best virtual currency to buy under $1. The other possibilities provided by the independent rating agency were Stellar, Cardano and IOTA. The poll has been conducted on October 11th and registered 5,726 votes, which are almost 50% of Vice Ratings followers. And now you have to keep in mind here, Twitter polls often travel, and the people voting on them are often not primarily the actual subscribers, followers of that Twitter account. the moment someone retweets something like that, there's other people voting on it. So yes, this is roughly 50% of the number of their followers, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that these votes are primarily their own followers. Their tweet said, in your opinion, which one is the best coin to buy under $1? XLM, Stellar Lumens, Cardano, XRP, IOTA, Stellar. XRP is one of the most valuable cryptocurrencies in the market. Right after Bitcoin and Ethereum, it has a market cap of 16.72. I believe they mean $1 billion and not dollars. And each coin can be bought for 41 cents. At the same time, XRP has been facing difficulties during the last months. The US Securities and Exchange Commission has been closely following XRP and Ripple in order to understand whether it is considered a security or not. Moreover, since the beginning of the year, XRP lost more than 90% of its value. However, now it is being traded 88% down from its all-time high of $3.66 per coin, according to CoinMarketCap. Now, we see here once again that there appears to be a bit of an anti-XRP bias in how the major crypto news sites report. Because there was very little reason to just insert 2 paragraphs of only pretty much the most negative news you can come up about XRP, especially when most of that does apply to the entire cryptocurrency space. Like XRP having lost 90% of its value, or at its current price 88%, most of the major cryptocurrencies, except for a handful, have lost over 80% of their value this year. So yeah, this is the bias is showing again. Anyway, let's continue here. As per the poll conducted by Vice Ratings, the second most voted coin was Cardano with 25% of the votes. Stellar received 8% and IOTA just 3%. Stellar is currently the 6th most valuable virtual currency with a market cap of $4.08 billion. Each coin can be purchased for 21 cents. Cardano is the 9th one and each coin is 7 cents. Finally, IOTA is the 12th most valuable one and each coin is 48 cents. The results show that Ripple is doing a great job in order to promote XRP and different products and services for financial institutions and banks all over the world. XRP could be one of the most used virtual currencies in the financial world rather than Bitcoin or Ethereum. In the last months, Ripple has been working in order for enthusiasts to understand that XRP works in an independent way from Ripple. However, Ripple holds an important part of the XRP supply and both are closely connected. Although that holds true, there are other projects not related to Ripple that are starting to work with XRP, including a tipping bot. Now, why I think this is relevant is because any poll with over 5,000 votes on it, even on Twitter, even when it might have been hijacked by pro-XRP Twitter, like this was probably retweeted, quote-tweeted by big XRP supporters telling all their followers to vote on it. So it's definitely not necessarily representative of whole market sentiment. But anytime you see over 5,000 votes come in and a clear winner emerge, you should be paying attention. I think this is a sign, even if it might not be representative of the entire market or even of the entire crypto Twitter. I think seeing so much support for XRP in a poll with over 5,000 people taking part is a very good sign that the perspectives on XRP within the markets, within the crypto sphere might be changing. We have seen a lot of people who were previously very critical of XRP and of Ripple the company say much more positive things about the token than they used to. And I think this is representative of a larger movement happening in the community. Now, of particular note here is that Vice Ratings has been very pessimistic about XRP's future. I believe they are the ones who predicted that XRP will fall to 1 cent. So it is likely that most of their followers are not XRP supporters, because you likely wouldn't be following a ratings agency that makes very negative predictions about, and in many ways unfounded, predictions about the coin that you personally support. So seeing XRP emerge victorious among at least some of the voters being the following of a company who has been very critical of XRP, that is very exciting for me to see. Like I said, it's just one poll, there's millions of these, and and it's definitely not representative in any real way, but it's still a small glimmer of how the crypto world might be changing its stance on XRP, and it's very exciting to see something like this as an XRP supporter. Anyway, continuing on, there are some issues with Ethereum's Constantinople upgrade. Apparently, it has stalled on a testnet, and it, to my knowledge, let's refresh this, see if they updated it. To my knowledge, it is still stalled right now. Let's read this quickly. Ethereum's main test network, Dopson, is currently at a standstill. Code for Ethereum's upcoming hard fork, Constantinople, was set to be activated on Dopson at block number 4,230,000. However, according to blockchain explorer sites such as Etherscan and BlockScout, the current network is stalled at one block before that. Afri Shodan, release manager of the Ethereum client Parity, explained that the reason for the stall was a lack of miners on the Dopson network to push the newly upgraded blockchain forward, he wrote in a public Gitter channel. Gitter, not Litter. In other words, though Constantinople was released to Dopson, miners failed to upgrade their software. Shodan wrote, "The fact that all clients are stuck means that there is no valid Constantinople block yet," adding a plea for Ethereum developers to boot up upgraded Dopson nodes or computer servers able to mine Constantinople activated blocks. Several proponents in the same chat room have responded to the plea and are currently working to resolve the issue. Ethereum developer Peter Cisalgi, I probably mispronounced that, very sorry. That appears to be an Eastern European name, and I don't speak any Eastern European languages, so I never know how to pronounce these names. If someone who can reach two other developers, they should have access to our monitoring Geth node to start mining. Martin Holstrande is also unfortunately offline and can't help right now. To this, Shodan responded wryly that, in hindsight, the weekend was not an ideal time for release of Constantinople on Dopson, saying, "Not for later, never," and "note for later," I believe this is supposed to be, "never fork on weekends." As of press time, the Dopson testnet is still frozen, with core developers actively working to set up a miner of their own to run Constantinople and progress the Dopson blockchain forward. It is unclear whether this delay will impact the full Constantinople upgrade, because the rollout's failure was due to a lack of miners upgrading their clients. The code itself remains untested. As CoinDesk reported Friday, developers for the world's second biggest blockchain by market cap have targeted late November as the launch date for Constantinople, which will bring a number of changes to the Ethereum network, including, perhaps most controversially, a reduction in the mining rewards for each transaction block. As a nearly identical blockchain to Ethereum, Dopson acts as a useful tool for Ethereum developers to check the performance of new code in a simulated environment separate from the primary chain. Last year's hard fork, Byzantium, underwent a testing period on Dopson for about 1 month before being released on Ethereum mainnet. So, it's still stalled currently, and this isn't representative of any issues with Constantinople's code itself, it appears, but there are just not enough people on the network right now who are making sure this can happen. And with any day that they can't test Constantinople, we might have to worry about them pushing the launch back, because they will obviously need a certain time of just running it on a testnet to see if everything is running the way they want it to. To not do that would be very, very risky, so hopefully they will figure this out soon. Anyway, now not so much for some real news as just someone said a few ridiculous things again, so let's laugh at him, shall we? And here, Jimmy Song, EOS is a scam, Bitcoin Cash has no reason to exist, and Ether is amateurish and stupid. Let's take a look here, because that is just so much gold. Jimmy Song, a popular Bitcoin developer and wearer of magnificent hats, if I might add so, and educator, spoke frankly in an interview for Crypto Insider about several crypto projects and other blockchain technologies. For Jimmy Song, the world of blockchain technologies has evolved at a very fast pace, and although he is constantly seen as quite optimistic about software development within the community, in this interview his harsh opinions about several projects attest that he can praise a project he likes with the same frankness and naturalness with which he can destroy with his words what he dislikes. Now, I'm not so sure if he actually destroyed anything, let's talk about this. First, he talked about Liquid Network, which is something he supports. He started the interview by praising the development of Liquid Network, a project that seeks the implementation of a sidechain in the blockchain of Bitcoin. For Jimmy Song, the potential of this development is extremely positive for the future of the ecosystem, and his quote, "My opinion is that it's a good first step towards sidechains. Eventually, I imagine this will become sort of like a second layer network that's more commercial, and I think that's a good thing. You know, I like competition, I like innovation, I like when new things are tried out. He's gonna be pretty critical about innovation in a few minutes, so yeah. So it's something that I've been thinking about for a while. It's called liquid for a reason, and it provides liquidity to everybody, and it should sort of even out the prices between all of these, and any participant in this network that doesn't have the same price as everyone else is actually more reflective of the fiat money in that country than anything else. So I think it will be a good thing. I look forward to watching it more. Now, as far as this goes, I can mainly agree with him here. I'm also excited to see what Liquid Network is going to turn out to change, how good that project will turn out to be. Bitcoin desperately needs sidechains, updates, things running alongside it, because the core Bitcoin technology is just not up to the same level of more modern cryptocurrencies. It simply cannot scale to the same level. It is not as fast, it's not as cheap, it's just technology outmatched because it was an innovator. Bitcoin was the first, and everyone else got to build on top of that and to improve on top of that. So for Bitcoin to remain relevant in the future, it needs to upgrade its technology somehow. The core code will likely never be upgraded because too many people are completely against that idea, as we have seen with some hard forks in the past. But running sidechains might be the right solution here, and there's a lot of research and development in that direction happening, so I'm very excited about the future there. But now he starts attacking other coins, and some of these attacks are just utterly ridiculous. During the interview, Vlad Costea asked Jimmy Song for advice to people who are interested in working as blockchain developers. Vlad asked him how attractive it was to work on Bitcoin instead of developing on other blockchains like EOS. Faced with this question, Jimmy Song was quite critical of the project. And he said, "Well, I think EOS is a scam and I don't think you should work on it. Ellipsis, working for something EOS, ellipsis, I don't think it's a really ideal," this is probably misquoted, "because it will die in a horrible dumpster fire in the next 5 years. Doing something for an ICO that's not gonna last, you're not going to have anything good on your record by joining a lot of this stuff." So his issue with EOS here seems to be the fact that it ran an ICO. Really? The way of funding is going to be what colors your opinion of the project? I think that is the completely wrong way to look at this. I think you should be looking at the technology, at the capacities of it, at the use cases, and in my honest opinion, EOS has a long way to go. But as it looks right now, technologically and as far as its use cases are concerned, EOS appears to have a lot more potential than Bitcoin. Now, I'm not saying that EOS will be the #1 cryptocurrency. I'm not even saying that EOS is unique among cryptocurrencies for having that potential. It's just pretty much by default, anything newer than Bitcoin that has a real team, that has real development behind it, that is working on real use cases, will be superior to Bitcoin for the simple fact that they are second or third generation blockchains that have advanced technology that they can benefit from. So calling EOS here a dumpster fire that will crash in the next 5 years, pretty much just because it's associated with ICOs, well, that, and even the word choice here, a scam, that is a very big accusation. That is the kind of stuff, that is the kind of slanderous accusation that you can be sued for. Like, he should be a bit more careful about his choice of words as well here. Let's continue on. Bitcoin Cash. Jimmy Song was also not very conservative in explaining what he thinks of the project. When Mr. Costea asked him about his opinion of Bitcoin Cash, Jimmy replied, "Bitcoin Cash has no reason to exist. I wrote an article called Bitcoin Cash is Fiat Money. Please go read that if you want to see my arguments about why I think Bitcoin Cash is worthless, or it doesn't really have any value to anyone." Now, we're just going to ignore the fact that instead of just providing a straightforward answer in an interview here, which is what you should be doing, he just shilled an article he wrote. Comparing it to fiat money doesn't, like, that's an ideological argument. That is him saying it's not decentralized or not advanced enough. That's him saying Bitcoin Cash doesn't live up to his personal ideals of what cryptocurrency should be. That is not the same thing as not having a reason to exist. Different people get to have different ideas about what a cryptocurrency should look like, how it should behave, which ideals it should follow. And there are various cryptocurrencies that I personally don't agree with the core ideology behind them, that I don't think are personally going in a direction where I would want the world to go. That doesn't mean those don't have a reason to exist. Bitcoin Cash was created to deal with some of Bitcoin's shortcomings. And he He admitted that he supports other projects that try to work on these shortcomings, so saying it has no reason to exist, that is just utterly ridiculous. The reason for it to exist is that Bitcoin wasn't up to the level of more modern projects. Bitcoin Cash exists because Bitcoin isn't good enough. Now, this once again isn't saying that Bitcoin Cash succeeded in being better, or that Bitcoin Cash is the #1 cryptocurrency you should be buying. It's just saying that they saw an issue. That issue was Bitcoin's technical limitations, and they tried to fix that. And whether you think they agree to or not, they most certainly have a reason to exist. Next up, Ethereum. He really had something to say about every token, didn't he? Jimmy also criticized the Ethereum network. Its development is somewhat poor according to his criteria. And he said, Ethereum, I think it's a platform from these scams, and there's more or less their killer feature. I don't think it's technologically very interesting. Most of the features that they have done are done in a very amateurish way, like adding Turing completeness. That's not used by anybody. It's stupid. Now, want to know my opinion here? At least they're adding features. At least Ethereum has features. Like, Ethereum with these smart contracts, with its ability to be the basis for dApps, is a lot more variable in its use cases than Bitcoin will ever be, even with sidechains, because running it on the core blockchain will always be a less complex and an ultimately better way. So his attacks are just getting a bit ridiculous at this point. Now, I'm not against people who are Bitcoin maximalists. I think there are some arguments to be made for why Bitcoin might retain its #1 spot in the crypto world, and why that might even be a good thing. But when you start attacking other tokens with absolutely ridiculous arguments, with a lot of those arguments not even holding water relative to the cryptocurrency you're supporting, then that's just a bit ridiculous to me. And last but not least, he couldn't keep away from personally attacking someone else in the cryptocurrency sphere. He was talking about Roger Ver here. And let's look at his at what he said here. He doesn't want to engage at the idea level, but wants to engage at the personality level. He's a politician. He doesn't really care about helping the world or even engaging at the level of ideas. It is all about power for him, and that was really disappointing. He has done some really good things for Bitcoin, and I applaud him for that. And I said that at the very beginning of my speech, but seeing him like this is so blatant, so obvious, and so sad. It was very disappointing. Let's put it that way. I care about the ideas. I care about like how the incentive is structured, and I care about the actual technology. He has no interest in any of that. Instead, he wants to talk about what books he hasn't read or others have read. It is the stupidest form of debate ever. That just strikes me as very hypocritical here, because you're couching an accusation of using personal attacks instead of arguments in a 3-paragraph personal attack. Does anyone else see the issue here? Now, some of that might very well be legitimate criticism of Roger Ver. I haven't seen Roger Ver discuss a lot. I talked about him once a couple of weeks ago here. He was talking to, I forgot who he was talking to, about the philosophical notion of value and how we get to it. And he made a relatively good argument, but he ended up talking... He and the other person he was talking to, they ended up kind of talking past each other, like no one really was responding to the other person. But he wasn't engaging in ad hominem attacks, and he wasn't doing anything shady there. So at least in that one debate I have seen excerpts from, he seemed perfectly acceptable there. Now, this is not an endorsement of Roger Ver. Like I said, I've only really seen his statements from one debate. And there he was just okay, but it just this just struck me as a bit hypocritical. Like if you want to care about the ideas and about the technology and about the incentive structures, you shouldn't be out here attacking someone else in the cryptosphere for their way of discussing. You should be talking about those ideas. If someone asks you about your opinion about someone else in the cryptosphere, you just say, I don't want to do that. I don't want to talk about other people. I want to talk about the technology. So this just seems like he wanted to get off steam, like he wanted to attack someone. So no. Anyway, a lot of ridiculous stuff here. I just wanted to share it with you guys. He always has one of those ridiculous hats on. It's amazing. Anyway, next up, there was a report a couple days that it was a bit scary. So let's take a look here. China could damage Bitcoin, research shows. Now, this is pretty long. We're just going to read the first couple paragraphs so you have a general idea of what is going on here. China holds more influence over Bitcoin than many are ready to admit, which could damage the whole network, a new study shows. The country threatens the security, stability and viability of Bitcoin with its political and economic control over domestic cryptocurrency activity and control over its internet infrastructure, shows the study from Princeton and Florida International Universities. The research paper, titled The Looming Threat of China: An Analysis of Chinese Influence on Bitcoin, goes on to explain, as the value and economic utility of Bitcoin have grown, so has the incentive to attack it. We singled out China for analysis because they are the most powerful potential adversary to Bitcoin, and we found that they have a variety of salient motives for attacking the system and a number of mature capabilities, both regulatory and technical, to carry out those attacks. The Bitcoin mining system is heavily centralized, the study goes on to say, as over 80% of Bitcoin mining is performed by 6 mining pools, with 5 of those managed directly by individuals or companies based in China. This could make a 51% attack viable, as the combined effort of Chinese mining pools accounts for 74% of Bitcoin's hash power. This is a significant share of the global hash rate, more than controlled by any other single country, but the precise quantity is unknown, the study adds. Now there's some more here, and I would suggest, if you are interested in this, read the entire study. The thing with scientific studies is that they're usually very precise in what they're talking about, and it's usually not easy to boil it down to just a quick article. So you will often see them misrepresented, exaggerated, or just all around misunderstood. So if you want more on this, do read the study itself, the research paper. It is, I believe it's linked. Yep, it seems to be a link to the PDF right there, so you can read the actual paper. Read that instead of just reading articles about it. But I just wanted to share with you guys just the fact that this is an issue. Now, whether you think China really does want to attack Bitcoin, that's not the question here. The question they looked at in that research isn't, is China going to attack Bitcoin? It's, could China attack Bitcoin, and would China have legitimate reasons to attack Bitcoin? And the answer to both of those is, unfortunately, currently, yes. Now, the big issue with China politically is that it is one of the most authoritarian countries in the world, which has a ridiculous control mechanism where they have pretty much full control, full surveillance of all their citizens, and that includes into the digital realm and the monetary realm, and they're really ruling with a tight fist, controlling what people can and can't do. And if they should one day decide that they want to get rid of Bitcoin, they would have the capacities to do so. Because in China, any large company, and these mining pools would very much be included in that, either has direct ties to the Chinese government or can be co-opted by the Chinese government if they want them to. So if they wanted to, the Chinese government could one day just decide to launch a 51% attack on Bitcoin. And that is very worrying, because on a decentralized network, usually nobody is supposed to have more than 51% of the power. A decentralized network doesn't work when more than 50% of the power is concentrated in any one person or entity. In this case, people connected directly to China. And that is worrying, because that is just a big issue with the concept of decentralized cryptocurrencies. What happens when they become centralized? Now, it's not the design of Bitcoin to be centralized, but if too much of it lands in one hand, it does become centralized. It's like, imagine if in a country there were 10 million people voting, but then suddenly 11 million people were brought into the country just specifically to vote for one party. That would be all the power in over 50%, and they would be having full control of what would happen. And that is what can happen to Bitcoin. That is what can happen to decentralized systems when they become centralized because too many people hold on to too much, too few people hold on to too much. Now, this isn't a dig at Bitcoin. This will happen to any decentralized system, but with Bitcoin, it is currently a reality. So we should be slightly worried about this. There's also the issue that China has very good reasons to be opposed to Bitcoin. Bitcoin has been used, and other cryptocurrencies have been used as well, for political dissent in China. And if there's one thing China doesn't like, it's political dissent. That is one thing that they're actively working against. And if they see Bitcoin as a democratizing factor that enables people to share their political opinions unchecked, uncensorable, and outside of the country as well, one thing China does is they block social media websites, they block access to Wikipedia, they block access to websites where you might be able to talk to international audiences. Bitcoin is one of those things that's not as easy to block, but what they can do is destroy it. So now, China is also developing cryptocurrencies, but it is very much in a controlled way with companies within China. And this is slightly worrying. Now, who knows if anything like this will ever happen? The worrying part here is that it could happen, and it could already happen now. So, slightly worrying. Another thing we need to consider here is if Bitcoin were to ever become something like a world currency, or if some other countries break down, their economy breaks down, and people start using Bitcoin as their primary currency, China would essentially be able to completely destroy another country. It would be full-out economic warfare of a level we have never seen before. If a country that China doesn't like, that China is opposed to, that is in direct conflict with China, is using primarily Bitcoin, and they destroy Bitcoin. Those are the kinds of considerations we need to think about now. And I really hope that that Bitcoin will become more centralized, more decentralized rather than more centralized, but right now everything is pointing in the direction of it only becoming more centralized with age. So we should be worried about this. This doesn't mean Bitcoin is completely over or that it can't be saved. This doesn't mean that Bitcoin isn't a valid project or that it doesn't deserve its place in the crypto world. But this means we should at least keep this in the back of our minds as a possibility. And we need to come up with solutions of how we will stop this from happening. And I hope people are working on those solutions. I assume now that they have published this research that those same researchers probably already had some conclusions in the actual paper, what could be done. I hope that some of them are now focusing their research on how this could be averted. Anyway, last but not least, more news out of China, and these might be more positive about cryptocurrencies. There's an unconfirmed rumor that the big company that Tron is allegedly about to partner with is Baidu. Baidu, here they call it China's Google, is a big search platform, social media platform, forum platform. I think they do video streaming. They have everything. They are a massive internet platform in China. And it being a China-controlled internet platform, it is also heavily censored, but at least it's available in China at all. And they are rumored now to be the big company that Tron has announced they are working with. A couple days ago, Tron announced that they are working with a company that has a value in the tens of billions of US dollars. Baidu would definitely fit that. Let's read this article. The team of cryptocurrency project Tron has reportedly partnered with China's largest internet search provider Baidu. Crypto market news service CoinNest has claimed this in a tweet Thursday, October 11th, citing its private correspondence with Tron's team. Neither Tron nor Baidu have been able to confirm the partnership to Cointelegraph as of press time. Without specifying the details of the partnership, CoinNest has claimed that the deal between Tron and China's internet giant Baidu will be officially revealed by the cloud storage service Baidu Cloud next week. While CoinNest claims that Tron has exclusively confirmed the partnership in private correspondence with it, the crypto platform itself has not yet officially announced any details of the partnership or even the identity of its new business partner. Anyway, we don't need to read the rest of this right here. The rest is a general outlook about what Tron has been doing and what Baidu is. This could be absolutely huge for Tron if this turns out to be true. Now we do have to keep in mind that we also don't know what this collaboration entails. It looks like they would be working with Baidu's cloud service, which of course is a natural application for blockchain technology. But we ultimately don't know to which degree they might be working together. In the past, there have been some big collaborations hinted at, and those only turned out to be a company accepting a cryptocurrency as a payment method, which I personally wouldn't really consider much of a partnership. But we will see what this is. If it's Baidu, that would be a massive, massive partner. That would be one of the biggest partnerships in crypto if this turns out to A, be true, and B, be any kind of major partnership, and not just Baidu saying that they're looking into Tron or that they'll accept TRX tokens as a payment system somewhere. if this is like some substantive way of them working together, of them developing technology together, of them integrating the Tron blockchain and the ETH token in some serious way, that would be huge, huge, huge for Tron. So let us see. Tron has gotten some good news in the last couple of weeks. Let's see if we can add another piece of really good news to it. The image of Tron has also changed significantly. A lot of people consider Tron very much... I'm trying not to curse as much because I also want to try to get this channel monetized. But you know what I mean, coin. Like, that is the image that a lot of people have seen Tron as. A lot of people think Tron is all hype. But there have been some substantive things lately with them buying BitTorrent and now integrating themselves into BitTorrent software. And now this. They also have some major software updates coming. So there's a lot happening with Tron, and if you're a supporter of Tron, it is looking rather good right now. But let's wait what exactly this is before we get too hyped about Baidu. Anyway, here I'm going to end this video. As always, thank you so much for watching, and if you want these daily news update and discussion videos, make sure to subscribe. I do put these out every single day. I think I haven't missed a single day in a month or so. If you like this channel, there is a Patreon you can support for $1 or $3 a month, and you get some perks for that, and you will get your name in the credits, and you will be just awesome, and you will get my eternal love and appreciation. Aside from that, in the description there are also the links to all these articles if you want to read them in full, as well as links to my social media pages. I have a Twitter and a Facebook page for the channel, and an email address where you can send questions if you want to be included in a question and answer video in the future. I know I announced this like a month ago, but I simply don't have enough questions to really form it into a video yet, so do ask me more. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys again soon.